Shalom, 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 everybody. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome back to the next edition with Reading With Shilo, baby. We up in here, we're going to read something. We'll get the next edition, Chapter 4 of The Valley of the Dry Bones by Dr. Rudolphf R.WINDSOR. Another black author, or so-called black author. But we're here. It's the Valley of the Dry Bones. We're on Chapter 4, man. Chapter 4. Chapter 4. The Resurrection of a Dead Nation. Chapter 4. And definitely a lot to see. We're going to see what he's talking about. Can this dead nation be resurrected? Can the dry bones in the valley live? That's definitely the question. Can dry bones live? As Ezekiel said, only you know us, God. Only you know us. Chapter 4, The Valley of the Dry Bones by Dr. Rudolphf R. WINDSOR. Come on in, everybody. Welcome to all the new subscribers. Welcome. Come on in so we can get ready and go. Give y'all a minute. A minute. Just a minute. We are definitely over halfway done with the book. This is what we read. This is what we have left to go. We are on chapter 4. Which is going to be a part 1 and a part 2. Yeah, it's only 5 chapters. And chapter 5 will be a part 1 and a part 2 as well. Shit. We'll see. Part 1, part 2, maybe even a damn part 3. We'll see. But come on in, sit down, grab a pen and paper, get you something to drink. Hope y'all ate some good breakfast, if you eat breakfast. I ain't eating no breakfast. But yeah. The Valley of the Dry Bones by Dr. Rudolphf R. WINDSOR. The Resurrection of a Dead Nation, Chapter 4. Chapter 4. Some people have believed for many years the dry bones in the 37th chapter of Ezekiel refers to the resurrection of billions of dead people at the time of the coming of the Messiah. They couldn't be further from the truth. When we study the complete Bible and all the book of Ezekiel, we see that it is clear proof that the dry bones refer only to an ancient race and their sons, and they do not refer to the actual dead found in graves. In this chapter, we will find the logical meaning of the dry bones and historical and current facts to reveal the true meaning of God. God brought Ezekiel in a vision to a deep valley that was full of bones. Then God said to him, "Can these bones live? Can these bones live?" Damn, that's a good question. Can these bones live? Ezekiel replied, "Thou knowest. Thou knowest." And God said to Ezekiel, "Prophesy to these bones and speak unto them. O ye dry bones, hear the word of the Lord. And I will lay sinews upon you, and will bring up flesh upon you, and cover you with skin, and put breath in you, and ye shall live." "And ye shall know that I am the Lord. So Ezekiel prophesied as he was commanded. And as he prophesied, there was a noise and a shaking, and the bones came together, bone to his bone. Ezekiel 37, verses 4 through 7. The process of the bones coming together forms skeletons. What does this mean? The joining of the bones symbolized the uniting and the building of families. During the period of slavery, there was virtually no concept of family or formal legal marriage. Children were taken away from their mothers, fathers, brothers, and sisters were sold to remote plantations. Children were taken away from their mothers. Fathers, brothers, and sisters were sold to remote plantations. With the advent of freedom after the Civil War, the liberated slaves began to search for their lost relatives. Lerone Bennett Jr. tells this touching story. In the first sweet flush of freedom, men and women trudged dusty roads asking sad questions. Has anyone here seen Sarah? Do you know a man named Sam? Many stories from this era tell of a man who married only to discover later that he had married a cousin or a sister. Nonetheless, the bones of the families were coming together. And when I beheld, lo, the sinews and the flesh came up upon them, and the skin covered them above. But there was no breath in them. Ezekiel 37 and 8. Sinews are tendons. They connect the muscle to the bones. Also, sinews and flesh represent the coming together of the families. The skin symbolizes the acquisition of education, college degrees, good professional jobs, new homes and cars. In other words, anything that contributes to a person's outer appearance or prestige. Just as the skin adds to the physical appearance and beauty of the human body. In spite of the fact that the number of Black people having high-paying jobs, the vast majority of Black people are living in abject poverty, ignorance, confusion, in crime-infested areas, devoid of proper leadership. Something is wrong. Something is lacking in the Black man's community. Our educated people, with all their PhDs, have not been able to solve the problem. All civil rights bills and Supreme Court decisions have not solved our problems. Integration has not proven itself as a solution for our manifold problems. Since the assassination of Malcolm and King, Black people have gone down, 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 and down. Now we have reached rock bottom, with President Reagan putting the knife to most affirmative action programs. Black people are in an extreme state of disillusionment and confusion. It reminds me of the Temptations record, Ball of Confusion. Black men and women were walking or standing on the street corner looking like zombies, not knowing where to go, not knowing what to do, but only thinking to do in one another. The more exact expression is to get over on one another. When Kunta Kinte and Roots first arrived in America, he saw the other slaves. He said they all looked like zombies. He meant that they behaved as if they had been drugged. The old slaves did not have their original state of mind. Kunta Kinte couldn't detect the difference. Kunta Kinte could detect the difference because he was a new young arrival. Today, the Black man acts like a zombie under a deep sleep. Many of us are like the living dead, without hope, without purpose, without guidance, and without destiny. The prophet Ezekiel saw this living dead. The bones, sinews, flesh, and skin came together. Nevertheless, they were likened to corpses in the valley. The valley is America. All these bodies that Ezekiel saw had no life. And the Black man in America has no life. Those ingredients necessary to sustain a viable, living Black community are grossly lacking. There will be more about these ingredients in a little later. Then he said unto me, prophesy unto the wind, prophesy, son of man, and say to the wind, breathe. Thus saith the Lord God, come from the four winds, the four directions. Oh, breathe and breathe upon these slain that they may live. Ezekiel 37:9. Although many Black people have acquired advancement in the mainstream of the American society, nevertheless, in the eyesight of God, he has considered us a slain, dead people, because the masses of the Black people are still on the bottom of the political, economic, and social level and are not guided in the proper direction. Number one, Black people are dead because the Black leaders are divided, and some leaders are not responsive to the adequate needs of the people. Number two, Black people are dead because the police can sometimes murder a Black man handcuffed behind his back, and the police will be set free. Number three, Black people are dead because they have to depend on those that hate them for a livelihood. Number four, Black people are dead because they don't own or control the businesses in their own neighborhoods, but new aliens often control the businesses. Number five, Black people are dead because their houses and buildings are vandalized, boarded up, and disfigured with graffiti. Number six, Black people are dead because they don't help each other. Oh man, Black people are dead. So I already read this book, so I got stars by a lot of this stuff. Black people are dead because the behavior of students is terrible and the educational level is in a sorrowful state. Number eight, Black people are dead because disunity, mistrust, and disrespect exists between Black males and females. Yeah, put my thing a little closer. Oh, that's a lot better. Number 8, read it again. Black people are dead because disunity, mistrust, and disrespect exists between Black males and females. Number 9, Black people are dead because the unemployment rate is the highest in the nation, and a qualified Black female can get a job quicker than a qualified Black male. In affirmative action programs, because a Black woman is less of a threat to the white male than a Black male is. Number 10, Black people are dead because many of them are preoccupied with sports, dancing, and music, carrying loud radios in the streets as big as luggage bags. The radios are so loud that the Martians could hear them from their remote red planet. Number 11, Black people are dead because so many of them lie to each other perpetually, well knowing that they have no intentions of fulfilling their promises in the first place. Number 12, Black people are socially dead because most will not accept the word of another Black man unless that word is confirmed by the white power structure. I see that a lot on YouTube. I'm not YouTube, Facebook. You know, they'll be like, "You won't believe me, so let me let the white man tell you. Maybe you'll believe him." And they tend to. If the white man said it, like they said, white is right. If you're white, you're right. And if you're Black, get back. And if you're brown, stick around. Black people are socially dead because most will not accept the word of another Black man unless that word is confirmed by the white power structure. But a Jim Jones from California was able to take 900 Black people to their death, all in the name of religion and integration. Number 13, Black people are dead because the crime in Black community is the highest in the nation in proportion to the population. And most of this crime, which eats like a malignant cancer, destroys the foundation of our community, is committed by Blacks against Blacks. Absolutely. Blacks are socially and mentally dead for all of the aforementioned reasons. Considering the fact that the individual advancement of some Blacks and the deplorable conditions that prevail in the Black community today, this is a contradiction. Every day we hear and read about the ways other ethnic groups built their social institutions around their cultural heritage. But something is wrong when Black social institutions have not arrived at the conclusion that African cultural heritage is a necessary element for the development of a healthy, breathing Black community. So I prophesied as he commanded me, and the breath came into them, and they lived and stood up on their feet, an exceeding great army. Ezekiel 37:10. What does the breath symbolize? We have learned that the bones, sinews, the flesh, representing the unification of dispersed families after the emancipation from slavery. And the skin represents the attaining of higher positions in all areas of American life, with the assistance of the federal laws. Nevertheless, this did not solve the gross chronic social problems as experienced and suffered by the masses of the Black people. And why? Because the most important element was lacking, the breath. The most important element was lacking, the breath. The breath of life, the breath. I would agree. I would agree. That's, with all the advancements, with all the millionaires and influencers and all this, that's one thing I have not seen. All the churches on every corner, yet they are not unified in consistently doing God's laws, consistently keeping God's commandments. God's commandments to a lot of people are worrisome, bothersome. They're not hip. You want the jive commandments? You could be considered a jive turkey for keeping or trying to keep God's commandments. Old school. It's not something that people tend to want to do these days. But I agree, for a good social and orderly community, it has to be rules and regulations. Across the board, for it to be considered orderly across the board, it has to be rules that everybody can go to and be like, okay, you didn't do this, you're not orderly. You did do this, you are orderly. And I believe God's commandments, he set them up perfectly. He set them up perfectly. Without this breath of life, the black man in America can be compared to a corpse lying in a $50,000 casket, dressed up in a $500 tuxedo, wearing a $100,000 diamond ring on his finger, a solid gold watch on his wrist, and a pair of $200 shoes on his stinky feet. The appearance of this black man lying in his luxurious casket dazzles the imagination of many other ethnic groups. They ask the question, what good is his wealth? What good is his wealth? He does not have any life, but a deceptive glowing image among the galaxy of people on the earth, of the earth. The other ethnic groups say that the blacks have some movie and television stars, educators, supervisors, doctors, lawyers, engineers, sportsmen, and singers, and so on. But these blacks that have made it do not help blacks who need help. But these blacks who have made it do not help blacks who need help. Another question would be, what way do they need help? In what way? They let the masses of the blacks linger in the cesspool of ignorance, unemployment, filth, and crime. The few black men and women that have and the masses that don't have represent the cancerous corpse lying in the casket without breath. Now, the breath. which is so necessary for the resuscitation of the black man from his state of death and social decay, represents many things, such as the law and spirit of God, a return to the African Hebrew Israelite Judean identity. Man, that was a mouthful. African Hebrew Israelite Judean identity, nationality, culture, history, and language. It is the acquisition of tremendous racial pride. It is the removal of the decadent slave mentality. It is the black nationalism. It is the utilization of this African Hebrew Israelite culture to acquire stupendous economical power to help solve the increasing unemployment problem. This breath will revitalize the black man, bring him to life, and impart to him knowledge and the understanding to direct his affairs in every compartment of life, so that the masses of black communities will be safe from destroying themselves. Moreover, every other nationality is using the black man in his own home and community. This means that they are exploiting the black man, and the black man allows it. The sociologists and psychologists for decades offered a multitude of various remedies to lessen the social problems in the black community. Those that are responsible for destroying black people will not save black people, nor will the solution work, which the blacks learned from their oppressors. At the time I write this, we have reached the year 1981. At the time that I write this, we have reached the year of 1981. 116 years have passed since the blacks' liberation from the physical slavery, and they still don't receive justice in the courts. Furthermore, many Oriental persons can immigrate to this country, and overnight they become the black masters. And I think they have laws on the books today. To where it can be a felony if you do something to an Asian. Yeah, if you do something to an Asian. The sociologists and psychologists for decades offered a multitude of various remedies to lessen the social problems in the black community. Those that are responsible for destroying black people will not save black people, nor will the solution work, which the blacks learned from the oppressor. At the time that I write this, we have reached the year of 1981, and 116 years have passed since the blacks' liberation from physical slavery, and they still don't receive justice in the courts. Furthermore, many Oriental persons can immigrate to this country, and overnight they become the blacks' masters. Blacks have been here so long, and it seems that they just can't get themselves together to accomplish anything for the masses. Every conceivable method has been tried but one. Every conceivable method has been tried but one. And what is it? And that is the solution of the Creator God. The emergency of the state of affairs in the black community and in the world requires corrective and effective solutions. The solutions that I render in this book are not predicted on European or Western racist views. However, they are founded in Afro-Asian Hebrew Israelite interpretations. After the black man in America acquires his Afro-Israelite culture, the things he needs most are the laws of God and the spirit and will to do these laws, because there are over 613 laws, statutes, and commandments in the Bible. And most people, when you talk to them and tell them that, they feel like that's a lot. They'll be like, man, there's a lot of laws. Oh man, that's too many. That is too many. After the black man in America acquires his Afro-Israelite culture, the things he needs most are the laws of God and the spirit and the will to do these laws. Like let's take one. Okay, we was reading Sister Sherazad Ali's, or we see that she has a book, How Not to Eat Pork. Man, my finger not dirty. How not to eat pork. That's a law. That's a law of God. That's a law of God, but so many people tend to find that law hard. My beard. Having a beard as a man is a law of God. But many people find it hard, you know. I'm glad that over the years, you know, becoming a man having a beard, it has become more mainstream. It's become a greater thing. Let me see. So it's a book. The Bible Compact Dictionary. All right. Let's look up the word beard. Beard. Now, when I used to be on the street teaching, this was definitely one I liked to read. The beard, because of what it stands for. Beard. The beard, from the Zondervan's Compact Bible Dictionary. The beard is a badge of manly dignity. A badge of manly dignity. Oh, Lord. As a sign of mourning, it was the custom to pluck it out or cut it off. The Israelites, the Afro that he's talking about, the Afro-Israelite, the Israelites were forbidden to shave off the corners of their beards, probably because it was regarded as a heathen sign. Put it in the Bible, Leviticus 19 and 27. But come on, man. It's a sin. Leave your beard on. Grow your beard. Grow what you can grow. Do what you can do. I didn't grow my beard until I was 30. I didn't try to start growing a beard until I was 30. I didn't have a lot of good examples of people who had beards. And nobody really had no beards around me. Everybody was clean shaven. Everybody was telling me to be clean shaven. They'll holler about that's what the women like. You know, but what does God like? That should be the question. If you believe in that, no matter what God you believe in, what does your God like? Anyway, back to the. I'm convinced that many of you don't want to hear this. But the laws of the Creator are the only things that will save the black man and even the whole world from complete destruction. Now, the breath that the prophet Ezekiel talked about is nothing but the Spirit of God. Listen what the universal creator force said to the Israelites, black people in America. A new heart also will I give you, and a new spirit will I put within you. And I will take away the stony heart out of your flesh, and I will give you a heart of flesh. And I will put my spirit within you and cause you to walk in my statutes. And I shall keep, and you shall keep my ordinances and do them. Ezekiel chapter 36, verse 26. The expression stony heart simply means a hard-hearted person who will not do God's laws. The expression that we use today is cold-hearted or cold-blooded. In the Bible, the prophets referred to Israelites or black ancestors as a stiff-necked and rebellious people, a people with stony hearts who would not show mercy to a senior citizen or anyone else that would knock them down on the streets, or to anyone else, but would knock them down in the streets and take their money. On the other hand, the Creator God said he would give his people a heart of flesh, a new heart, and a new spirit. The breath of life that enters the dried bones and the dead black people in America is the new spirit or God or good spirit as opposed to the evil spirit. Then he said unto me, Son of man, these dry bones are the whole house of Israel. Behold, They say that our bones that they say that our bones are dried and our hope is lost. We are cut off from our parts. Ezekiel 37:11. I think it has some misprints. I think it has it's missing some words. As you can see, the Creator God revealed to the prophet in the 11th verse who those bones represent. These symbolize the entire house of Israel, which developed from the 12 sons of Jacob and became the 12 tribes of Israel in Genesis chapter 35, verse 23. But at first, the prophet did not know who these bones represented, although he was an Israelite. There's profound meaning in the fact that Ezekiel did not recognize the identity of these bones. Can the reader guess? Can the reader guess? Some people speculate that these bones represent the resurrection of the dead from their graves. When one has knowledge and understands the interpretation, symbolism of the scriptures, and God's plan on earth, we are convinced that those who maintain this school of thought are remote from the truth. The prophet Ezekiel did not see dead bodies or skeletons in a burial grave of a cemetery. As we know them, he saw various bones disconnected and scattered over the surface of the valley. The prophet spoke in symbolic language many times, and in due time, I shall prove that the dry bones represent the revival and restoration of the people and nation of the Israelites. The symbolism in this chapter, in particular, is extremely profound, and it could not be completely understood until now. The time of the end, which is in our days. Daniel, the holy man of God, said, I heard, but I understood not. Then said I, O my Lord, what shall be the end of these things, the events? And he said, go thy way, Daniel. This means don't ask any more questions, for the words are closed up and sealed till the time of the end. Daniel chapter 12, verses 8 and 9. Now that the time of the end has arrived, we can unseal and explain the hidden meaning and symbolism in the Bible. Oh, my people, first of all, let us remember that the Creator God carried Ezekiel down into a valley that was full of dry bones. Take notice that the bones were not located on the top of a hill, but in a valley. The fact indicates the depths and lowness to which the Israelites would be reduced. Generally, men established cemeteries on high ground, not in valleys. Generally, men established cemeteries on high ground, not in valleys. That's something I really didn't know before. But it sounds logical. I know down here in Louisiana, a lot of our graves are buried above ground in sepulchres. Let me mark this. Generally, that's because when it floods, the ground is already so wet and moist, and when it floods and then water is sitting on that ground for so long, that grave can become buoyant. And as it becomes buoyant, it starts to float to the top. And you'll have the graves floating up out of the ground. Dead bodies coming up out of the ground. Like a scene from The Walking Dead or the Night of the Living Dead when I was younger. So, it's logical. Water runs downhill. So you would want all that water to run downhill so the body can decay properly and all this other stuff. The prophet walked among these bones and analyzed them in great detail. He saw that there were not even skeletons, but dried, disconnected, unidentifiable bones dispersed over the surface of the valley. The bones have become subjected to all kinds of unimaginative and horrible conditions and became dried over an exceedingly long period of time. When the Lord asked Ezekiel, "Can these bones or people live?" he answered, "Thou knowest, thou knowest." Let us analyze the answer of Ezekiel and study its implications. The prophet was actually saying, I don't think these dry bones can live, but there is nothing impossible with you, O Lord. Thou knowest, not I. The Lord asked Ezekiel, "Can these bones live?" Black people today paraphrase the same question on their own way or in their own way. Do you think that Black people will ever get themselves together? Do you think that Black people would ever get themselves together? Nope, a nigga ain't shit. I've heard that. Do you think that Black people will ever do anything right? Nope. I don't know what is wrong with your people. What do you mean, your people? They are not my people, but your, hey, I don't know what they're trying to say, but your damn people. Oh, but God knows what is wrong with your people. They are the dead people. Again, he said unto me, prophesy unto these bones and say unto them, O ye dry bones, hear the word of the Lord. The Creator God has issued a proclamation to the Afro-American Israelites to stop, look, and listen to the word of the Lord. It is the Creator who controls your destiny and the fate of the world, whether you want to realize it or not. I know that many of you don't want to hear anything about religion or God. Your ancestors did not listen to the prophets of old. They would not incline their ears to hear. So I know you are not going to listen to me. In Jeremiah chapter 44, verses 1 through 5. Yes, sir. What's up? What's up? You coming up here and listen? Get up here. Let's get up here and listen. Let me see. How you feel? Feeling all right? Where's your brother? Okay. All right. The Creator God has issued a proclamation to the Afro-American Israelites to stop, look, and listen to the word of the Lord. It is the Creator who controls your destiny and the fate of the world, whether you want to realize it or not. I know that many of you don't want to hear anything about religion or God. Your ancestors did not listen to the prophets of old. They would not incline their ear to hear. So I know you are not going to listen to me. Jeremiah chapter 14, verses 1 through 5. Many of you don't want to change your evil ways or your lifestyles. The force of good must unite. The forces of good must unite to find the forces of evil, to fight the forces of evil, or else the world, or our community will not be safe from anybody. The Black man and woman in America are commanded by God to hear the word of the Lord. Oh, ye dry bones, will you listen? Will you listen, DJ? Will you listen? We have to listen, man. Yes, sir. We have to learn to listen and not be stiff-necked, rebellious, hard-headed children. A hard-headed child is someone who doesn't listen and has to get told something over and over again. Yes, sir. Like when I gotta tell you over and over again, DJ, don't do that. DJ, don't do this. DJ, clean up your room. That's not listening. But you don't do it. When you don't do it, that's you not listening. But when you do it, if I tell you to do it once, DJ, put your Crocs on your feet when you come back here in the room. And you have your Crocs on your feet without me having to tell you, that means that you listen. Yes, sir. That's what God wants us to do. He wants us to listen without, he wants to be able to see us doing things without him having to keep telling us to do it. Love your brother as yourself without him having to keep telling you to do it. Don't lie without him having to keep telling you not to lie. Don't hate your brother. Don't steal from your brother or sister without him having to tell you to do it. He doesn't want that. No, sir. He wants us to listen. Will you listen? This is the first step to take in order to save our neighborhood from social decay. Or are you too busy or addicted to the sound of music or to television shows? You are addicted to Dallas, Good Times, Dynasty, What's Happening, Love Boat, The Jeffersons, and of course, Fantasy Island. Oh yes, you are living in a world of fantasy. So don't be surprised one day when you return home to find out you are missing all your furniture. Set your priorities in order and hear the word of the Lord, O dry bones. Hear the word of the Lord, O dry bones. The Creator cannot help us until we listen. The Creator cannot help us until we listen. The black man said to me last year, how can you make the assertion that we are Israelites when we don't possess any records or traditions of being the children of Israel? I retort to you, my retort. What is a retort? Retort. I think a retort means, you good? Okay. I think retort means a response. Retort. R-E-T-O-R-T. Retort. I think it means a response. My retort. R-E-T-O-R-T. R-E-T-O-R-T. Retort. R-E-T-O-R-T. Retort. R-E-T-O-R-T. Retort. 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 To make a reply. To pay or hurl back. Return. To say in reply. To answer as an argument by a counter argument or charge. Retort. My counter answer to him, or my hurl back at him, my payback at him, my answer by counter to him, or my retort to him was like this. If the prophet Ezekiel, who was also a priest and a living Israelite at the time of his vision, could not recognize the identity of the dead, dry bones scattered in the valley, how can you expect the dead bones, expect the dead bones, black people, to know their own identity? That was it's a good answer. If Ezekiel didn't know, and he knew, if Ezekiel didn't know, how do you expect the dead bones, black people, to know their own identity? The dead cannot lead the dead, just as the identity of the bones had to be revealed to the prophet. The Creator God had made known to me and other Israelites the true identity of the black man in America. Again, The fact that Ezekiel did not recognize the dry bones means that most people in the world would not be able to recognize the identity of the Black Americans, not even the white Jews. So don't be surprised one bit of a white Jew, if a white Jew says that Black Americans are not Israelites. For the most part, white Jews are converts, and the Jewish religion are converts to the Jewish religion in the first place. White Jews are converts to the Jewish religion in the first place. Therefore, prophesy and say unto them, thus says the Lord God, behold my people, I will open your graves and cause you to come up out of your grave and bring you into the land of Israel. Ezekiel chapter 37, verse 12. I think we got read a couple more sections. Hold up just a second. Quick. Text me. All right. My bad. Again, we must remember that the word graves here does not mean a big hole dug in the ground, but the meaning is symbolic and refers to the nations that hold the black Americans powerless in slavery, captivity, oppression, and a state of ignorance. How do we know this? I will open your graves means the Creator God will unlock the gross condition of ignorance we are in that binds us to impotence and social decay. He will remove from us the darkness of the Western world and give us the light of the East. I will cause you to come up out of your graves and bring you into the land of Israel. In order for the Creator to bring us into the land Israel, the grave has to be the countries of our slavery, captivity, and oppression. We'll read about one. I'm going to read the next two sections. Maybe three. The next three sections, and that's it. The next three sections. Is there a white Jewish bias? Is there a white Jewish bias? During the 1970s, the General Assembly of the United Nations introduced and approved a number of resolutions condemning Zionism as a form of racism. From 1870 to about 1948, most of the land acquired in Palestine by European Jews was purchased from the Arabs. I don't know why I keep saying Arabs. From the Arabs. Were purchased from the Arabs. However, around 1948, extending into the future, the Israeli government occupied Arab land they took in battle for strategic military reasons. The consequences of the Arabs losing was the Arabs lost these lands, consequently creating a horrible refugee problem. This was the basis of the anti-Jewish resolution in the United States condemning Zionism as a form of racism. It is not my intention at this time to deal with the Palestinian refugee problem. I will leave that for another book. However, it is my fervent desire to analyze and investigate in order to determine if bias exists within the World Jewish Organization or within the Israeli governmental apparatus, and if so, to what extent. Let us commence our investigation by looking backward into history. We must remember that Jacob, the father of the 12 tribes of Israel, departed from Canaan, now Israel, and went down to the neighboring African country of Egypt with his family and 69 people. Here in this African environment, the Israelites multiplied until they numbered over 1 million Israelites, until 1 million people, until they numbered into 1 million people. Yes, along the Nile River in Mother Africa was the incubator of the ancient Israelite people. It is common knowledge now that Hebrew Israelites lived in Africa before they existed on any other continent. Finally, the Israelites, led by Moses and Joshua, established themselves in the African country of Canaan. Then controlled by Egypt. Here they constructed a nation ruled by many kings. King Saul, King David, King Solomon, and so on. After existing as a nation for over 200 years, the Israelite nation split into, because of Rehoboam, King Solomon's son. That's not in here. You got to know that. The Israelite nation split into and was on the verge of civil war. The southern kingdom, which was called Judah, which was Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, and the northern kingdom retained the name Israel, which is all the rest of the tribes. Finally, a new empire arose, Assyria. It conquered the northern kingdom of Israel and dispersed the Israelites in the Middle East in 722 BC. After 135 years, another world power, Babylon, conquered the kingdom of Judah and carried the Judeans, or the Jews, as captive slaves to Babylon. After the Judeans had remained in Babylon, modern Iraq, for 70 years, Babylon was conquered by yet another power, the Persians. King Cyrus of Persia permitted the Judeans to return to the land of Judah and to rebuild Jerusalem and the temple beginning in 516 to 444 BC. The land of Israel always stood in the way of the new conquering powers. It was Greece in 332 BC and then Rome in 68 BC. The Romans put a complete end to the Judean state in 70 AD with a great slaughter and taking them into captivity. The aforementioned world powers conquered the land of Israel from the north, conquered the land of Israel from the north. Period. As always, marching armies created a refugee problem. Consequently, over a period of 700 years, hundreds of thousands of Israelites fled to the bordering African state of Egypt. And by the year 1 AD, there were more than 1 million Hebrew Israelites in the three African countries of Libya, Egypt, and Ethiopia combined, with minor penetrations in the Sahara and other parts of West Africa. At this junction of history, the highest concentration of Israelites was in Asia and Africa. But with the Roman era, there began a slow movement to Europe. The Romans transported Israelite slaves to the city of Rome. Other Israelites migrated to Rome and other cities in Europe. These Black Jews built communities and synagogues, owned white servants, converted many of these servants to the Israelite religion, and intermarried with them, which they shouldn't have did. After hundreds of years in Europe, the Israelites became lighter and lighter in color. They began to call themselves Jews or Jewish people. They had practically no contact with the Jews of Africa and Asia. They spoke a new language called Yiddish. It is a German dialect written in letters of the Hebrew alphabet and containing elements of Hebrew, Russian, and Polish, and other languages. They developed a complete new culture known as Yiddish culture, modeled after European ways of life. When white supremacy developed in Europe during the 16th century, Jewish thought and life began to be flavored with it. This is evident in the white biblical pictures they made in their straightening their hair. They used a different pronunciation in Hebrew, and their religious services changed considerably compared to those of the Afro-Asian Israelites. They adopted European names such as Sokolov, Perlstein, Weinstein, Kleinbaum, Wiseman, and Jabotinsky, instead of Hebrew names such as Yaakov, Jeremiah, Eshmelech twice, Shemal, Ahaz, and so forth. Yaakov, Jeremiah, Eshmelech, and Shemuel, Ahaz, and so forth. These Jews removed themselves so far from their once African homeland that, as a result, they began to think like Europeans in their new white skin. From then on, they were known as the Ashkenazis, or German Jews. Most of these Ashkenazi Jews are found in Europe, Australia, South Africa, a racist country, Canada, and the United States. As the 12th century arrived, come here, man, come on, get up off the floor. Come on, my boy. Come give Daddy a hug. Daddy need a hug. Can Daddy get a hug? Oh, you acting stank. I'm gonna remember that. Thank you. I'll take that. Take my hug. Thank you. Oh. Ow. My bad. You getting up here? You gonna sit with Daddy? Come on, let's read. Let's read, my boy. Let's read. We up here. As the 12th century, no, up here on this side. No, we're on this side. On this side. No, sir, this side, sir. This side. This side right here, sir. This side right here. We already read that side. Yes, sir. There you go. Yes, sir. As the 12th century arrived, the Jewish institutions of the European world perpetuated the concept that the biblical Israelites were white, to the point of forgetting that the Israelites were black. The Israelites were black, were and are. The Israelites were black and are black. In the famous movie titled The Ten Commandments, Yul Brynner played the role of the African pharaoh, and Charlton Heston, with his conspicuously Caucasian feature, played the part of Moses. Shit, I could play Aaron. The leader of the African Hebrew slaves. If the ancient Hebrew slaves had been white, performing rigorous work day after day under the intense heat of the African sun, which reaches 120 degrees, under these conditions, they would have died out completely during the first summer of slavery because of heat strokes. Bye. The Sephardim are the Afro-Asian Israelites. The Sephardim are the Afro-Asian Israelites. The word Sephardi means Spanish. It refers to the Afro-Israelites who lived in Portugal and Spain when the Moors ruled that country for 700 years. However, its meaning was developed to a much broader usage. Its broad meaning is now applied to non-European Israelites or the descendants of them who lived in Muslim countries or in Afro-Asian countries, period. Another name applied to these Israelites is Oriental, because they are from Eastern countries or countries with an Eastern culture as opposed to Western European countries. The complexion of these Sephardic Israelite ranges from jet black to high yellow. Many of the Israelites from Iran are yellow. From Morocco, they are brown and yellow. From Egypt, they are yellow and brown. And from West Africa, they are black. In other words, the Israelites in Afro-Asian countries look like the people in those countries. The music and dress of the Israelites in the Muslim world is the same as that of the Muslims in those countries. In addition, the Sephardic Israelites speak the purest Hebrew dialect, and this dialect is the official language of the state of Israel. Another fact that separates the Sephardic Israelites from the Ashkenazic Jews is that the Sephardics never became the perpetuators of racism. Color was never an issue to them. Destruction. We're almost done. This is the last. This is the last section, and it's not long. This is going to be the last section for part one. The last section for part one. Yeah. Destruction of the Afro-Asian Israelites. By the 6th century, the Black Hebrew Israelites had increased in such large numbers that they were found throughout the Middle East. They had at least 2 kingdoms in southern Arabia and a kingdom in Ethiopia, large settlements across North America and the Sahara Desert, a kingdom just southeast of the Senegal River. There was a Hebrew kingdom of Ghana, and there were numerous Hebrew Israelite settlements along the West African coast as far south as the country of Angola. Some of these Hebrew Israelites converted to Islam. Others amalgamated into indigenous African tribes, and many were transported as slaves to America. For detailed information, read From Babylon to Timbuktu. In order to understand the attitude of European Jews towards Afro-Hebrew Israelites, we must therefore scrutinize past world events. After the fall of the Roman Empire in the year 476 AD, Europe slept for 1,000 years. This period in Europe was called the Dark Ages. Practically no knowledge derived from Europe. During this same period of time, the hearth of the Afro-Asian world pulsated with tremendous commercial and intellectual activity. Also, the Muslims and Black Hebrew Israelites contributed greatly to all of the sciences. Gradually, Europe began to be stimulated by the intellectual activity of Africa and Asia, and the Renaissance or rebirth took place in the 14th, 15th, and 16th centuries. After her 1,000 years of sleep, Europe awoke and began to colonize Africa, Asia, and the Western Hemisphere. The Europeans knew very little about Africa. That is why they referred to it as the Dark Continent. As the Europeans explored Africa and transported its sons and daughters into slavery, Africa came under the complete domination of the powers of Europe. At the Berlin Conference in 1880, the European powers divided up Mother Africa. In essence, this meant that white supremacy and racism must take precedence over everything else. This meant that all the glory that once belonged to Africa, the Muslims, and the Black Hebrew Israelites would now be undermined and blotted out. These events and various others clearly drew a demarcation a demarcation line between Europeans and Africans, and a division or wider gap between European Jews and African Hebrew Israelites. Like some other white Europeans, some white Jews began to interpret and write books that were flavored with racism. That is part one. We're going to stop there. The next section, or part two, will start at the white Jews versus the black Israelites controversy. The white Jews versus the black Israelite controversy. That is part one of chapter 4 of The Valley of the Dry Bones by Dr. Rudolphf R.WINDSOR. And chapter 4 started off with the resurrection of a dead nation. The resurrection of a dead nation. A lot of info so far, man. A lot of info. A lot of people really don't want to hear. I know they don't want to hear it. I was telling them for years and they don't want to hear it. They still don't want to hear it. But, you know, hey, they like to say to each his own. They like to say that. You know, but you're going to find out one day whether your shit is true or not. You're going to find out one day. The stuff you believe in, is it true or not? Me, I think you're better safe than sorry. Keeping God's laws can't hurt you. It can't hurt you. It only help, you know. So if you really kept God's laws, and in the end you didn't have to, how is it hurting you? But if you had to keep God's laws, and in the end you didn't, and there is a consequence for not doing so, in the end you could be really tore up. You could be really hurt. You could be in a bad situation. Because the slain of the Lord shall be many. But, man, that's that. I hope everybody enjoyed that reading or this part of the reading. We're going to keep pushing, seeing the things that we could learn and grow from. Definitely like this book. I've definitely liked it. I definitely continue to like it. There's a lot of Hebrew information in there. Keep God's commandments and live in there. Keep God's commandments and things will go right in there. I haven't seen people do that. Like as a whole, we have not kept God's commandments. We have not. We have not at all. And I'm glad I got this in before the rain started coming down and the internet started messing up. But man, like, comment, subscribe, share. You know, if you find it interesting, man, let a conversation go up with you and your people. You can reach me at bootsoldier337@gmail.com if you want to send me a message outside of the messages on here. If there's any other books that you might like to hear being read, hey man, let me know. Let me know. Put it up there. Man, I'm over 100 subscribers. Thank everybody, man. Hey, thank all y'all. Over 100 subscribers. Shit, I ain't never had anything. But I ain't tripping. You know, I'm glad somebody, I'm glad y'all like what's going out enough to have the subscribers, you know, move up. 100, over 100, you know. I would say let's keep pushing and see how many we can get. Let's keep going higher and higher, you know. But I'm not really worried about that. I'm just worried about reading the books right now. That's all I'm really worried about. Reading the books and getting books read under my belt. And yours too, since you're with me. But man, thank y'all. Thank y'all. Reading with Shilo. Reading with Shilo. Till next time, man. Shilo out. Shilo out.